All right. Hello. And it's going to be another IncusOS related live stream following last week's, which was particularly useful with like a lot of issues resolved effectively. Pretty much all of the image building aspect of it all sorted. So all of the macOS bits are all good. And we can kind of look at what to do next, which is going to be handling kind of initial provisioning and starting to build a management daemon for Incus OS. So just a bit of a recap for where we are, since that's always quite useful, especially for those who don't necessarily watch those rather long live streams every week. Incus OS right now, we're at the point where we can build a base image. We can build the system extensions that go on top of that. And the partitioning scheme last week was all updated to handle system updates, and I actually got the remaining pieces of that in place, as well as putting some of the initial testing in place. So I'm gonna start with that, with just looking at what's been done effectively since the last live stream, and then just do a demo of where we stand. So let's see, where did we end up? So that's basically what I pushed last week, shortly afterwards. I did track down, so there was an issue around secure boot, loading of the keys and the like. It seems like it was an issue with the firmware in Incus. So I fixed that in our daily builds when I'm using a newer version of EDK2, and that seems to have fixed it. Nevertheless, for anyone who needs to do manual enrollment of the certificate, I added a commit to actually convert to the DER format that most firmwares need, and also effectively put that into the image itself. So just build a certificate and dumps it into boot EFI, so you can then pick it up from the firmware. So that was one piece. Then, because the firmware issue got fixed, now the VM was effectively automatically rebooting on startup. So the test code was just updated to handle that. It was easy enough. Then initial pass on the sysupdate definitions. So that was just put current at that stage just in macOS i.sysupdate to just kind of play with that. Then inside of the base layer image, it wasn't a systemd container that had to be installed to actually have the systemd sysupdate tool be available. So that was added. Then for the sysupdate files to actually be generated properly, we need split artifacts to be done by macOS I. So that creates more files rather than just like one big image file. It creates one file per partition. So that got enabled. And then initial tweak to the make file to handle the fact that now we've got multiple images on disk, so need to deal with that, as well as add an initial chunk of code to push the update and then try to run it. At that stage, it wasn't working quite perfectly, but we're getting there. Then I noticed a weird issue with Incus bootstrapping, which was caused by us actually activating the Incus user unit here. So I fixed that. We don't actually need an Incus user in this environment at all because there are no users. So I just stopped enabling those units altogether. And after that, moved the macOS I files around so that they're actually part of the image itself. So I've done that, which then simplified the makefile somewhat. And then I noticed that macOS I has a bit of an issue actually applying the update. I think that's a bug in systemd that's being fixed, but as a workaround, we effectively run the update within a namespace that has a clean mount of /user, and then that fixes the issue. So if we did that, that then ran into its own issue, which was that if the boot unit was not running, then the namespace would be kind of broken. So fix that one. And then you might remember last week, compression was super efficient at getting the size of the image down, but the kernel didn't support it. I fixed the kernel since, so earlier today I actually re-enabled compression. And I've been working on getting some tests in place. So that's what I've been doing just for the past few hours here. I can give you a bit of an idea of what that looks like. You can see it currently failing on the repo. That's normal. I'm actually working on my own copy of the repo for this. And that's the current test run. And it actually succeeded. So that's cool. It's the first time I see it succeed. So let's just go through what this actually does. So you can see what we're doing in tests now. And that's going to be the same demo it's going to do locally afterwards. So basically, we've got a GitHub Actions test, which runs on a self-hosted runner because we need nested virtualization to work, and also need actually nested virtualization to work in this case, and also need more disk and more resources than what GitHub usually provides. So just install a few packages that are needed. Basically, I'm trying to remember what we actually asked to install. Yeah, so Debian archive keyring, make, pipex, and QEMU utils. So that pulls a bunch of dependencies, that's fine. Then we run the install script to pull Incus daily. So that's just to have environments on which we can test this whole thing. So that's for Incus. Then we pull the current version from Git of makeOSI. And after that, just run effectively the make file to actually build an image. So that's the long thing you've probably seen before in previous videos, but just builds a full image. Once that's done, we'll then convert that into the right format for Incus and start it. So you can see after a while, it's up and running with connectivity. So that's all good. And followed by loading of the extensions. And one thing that's different here is that in the past, because of the firmware issue, we were stripping the signature to force it to load into systemd. Now that the key enrollment works properly and the kernel has the right signatures and everything, we don't need that. So it's actually loading the signed versions of those extensions in. So that's a nice improvement. So putting those in place, loading them up. At which point we effectively have the Incus binary in place. So the next stage is to actually initialize Incus. So triggering systemd sys users to create the users groups and the like, and then actually starting up the unit. And I think it also actually does the init for Incus. Yeah, it does. Okay, once that's done, then we do some testing. So it effectively creates a container and a VM inside of the Incus OS test instance, just to make sure that things work. It calls Incus list immediately afterwards. That's probably a mistake, which then is missing an IP address. It just doesn't look good. I'll just put a bit of a delay that will take care of that. And then we go on to the updates part. So if I just collapse that section again, we'll effectively go through the exact same step as earlier. So call the make file again. That builds up a new image. It's also interesting because you can see the amount of caching that happens. The first time the image took 2 minutes 50 seconds to build. The second time it took just 1 minute 53. Anyways, once the image is built, we do a bit of a test. So effectively pull the current details on the OS. You can see the timestamp here. So on 2024, 1206, 1829. So the timestamp is 1829 UTC. Then push the image into the test VM. I should actually acquire sort of those file copies just to make it more readable. Anyway, once it's copied, then we go ahead and ask sysupdate to apply the update. So you can see here that we're on 1829 and we've got 1834 that's not available. So tell it, okay, cool, flash the update and go ahead and reboot, which it does. And the reboot happens here. And then post reboot, we just make sure that we are now on 1834. So that's the sysupdate piece effectively all in place and working as expected. And that's the extent of the current testing. All right. So first thing first, I'm just gonna quickly go and tweak the test to fix the couple of tiny issues I just noticed now. So if we do incus file stuff, we probably want push, we want dash dash quiet, just to avoid all the progress info we're seeing. Just trying to make it slightly easier to follow. We'll do the same thing here on those guys. Push here as well. And then this one. Okay, so that's just quiescing all that stuff. That should be fine. Launch can probably also be quiesced for the same reason. We don't want to see all that download progress info. So that's good. And I think we've got a create as well. So not a file create. Where did I do? I was using init. Okay. So let's rename that to create for the correct name for this stuff and do quiet. Okay, so that should just clean that up a bit. And the other thing was the incus list call. Yeah, we should just give it a little bit. Could do a polling loop, but it's gonna be easier to just say sleep 30 seconds. The goal is to make sure that the VM is started up and the agent in the VM is responding. So that should be plenty for that. Okay, so extend testing to full end-to-end. That's good. Let me actually go and modify my current repo because it shouldn't normally. I don't actually want it to have access to the self-hosted runners normally. It was just for development. So let me go and revoke that. Okay, Incus, and you can't see it because it's got confidential stuff, so I'm not showing that. But I just removed that webhook, so now it's fine. And let me force push that to the repo. And if I go all the way back, actually this guy I don't need. Okay, so if I go here, now I should have a pull request, GitHub, use self-hosted runners. With the 3 commits, it's already run 2 of the tests and it's waiting for the 3rd one, which is currently allocating a test runner. That's actually custom code I've got that handles that stuff. If we go look at here, should see a VM being created shortly. No, why isn't it getting created? Huh. That's interesting. Okay, so that's the machine that's running the runner. Couldn't register worker post LXC Incus OS actions runners resource not accessible by personal access token. Okay, well, I'm gonna need to deal with that separately. Okay, that's kind of odd actually, but okay. I'm using a actually. Is it just a scoping thing? Let me check again off screen. So I put a piece of code that integrates with GitHub Actions and notices whenever something is pending and then spawns VMs to take care of those workloads as needed. There are proper solutions for that. GitHub Actions Resource Manager or something like that does that pretty well, but I'm used to mine. And I had to tweak it a bit today to have it do what I want, but apparently I didn't tweak it hard enough because it's not working. This token has access to, okay, all repositories owned by you. That's fine, but not quite what I want. Okay, can I give it access to other stuff? No. Huh. Okay. That's slightly annoying. Yeah, so I'm gonna need to do a different access token for that. Let me see if I can just fix it real quick. I can probably show you that. I just need to create a normal. So I did a fine-grained token here for my integration, and that's restricted to my own repos, which is not sufficient in this case, because I need stuff that works on the LXC org. So hopefully a normal, less safe classic token stuff will do it. So let's GitHub Incus run now, something like that. I think it's a GH action runner is what I actually call it. So let's call it that. No expiry, and let's see, because I need quite a bit of access, unfortunately, which is the problem with that stuff. So admin repo hook, maybe no, it's more than that. I need like full admin on the repo. Access commit status, deployment status, public, repository implementations, read write security events, full control. Yeah, I might need that, which is not great, but okay. Full controls of orgs teams. Okay, I don't need that one, I don't think. And normally you'd think it would be the runner stuff, but that's for the organization wide, which is not what I need. I might need that. Control organization hooks. I mean, I can always clamp it back down after and see if it still works, but I think that's probably enough. Okay, so I'm just gonna redo that off screen because now you saw that token, which would be a very bad day if so I'm obviously invalidating that token right now. It's done. I'm just gonna recreate it off screen so I can get the value without it being plastered on the internet. Okay, so let's do full repo access, full workflow access. Don't need that, don't need that. Repo hook, yes. Okay, I think that's gonna be enough. Let's pick that, copy the value, and let me just go on the machine on a different terminal again to go with that config value in place and see if that does the trick. Remember that being a bit tricky access-wise. So definitely got it working again earlier, but just for my own repo, and not I needed to work for a bunch of other repos. It's slightly trickier. Also, if that copy paste was working, that'd be nicer. Okay, I think that's the right value. Restart the service. Okay. All right, so let's cancel the workflow. I'm just gonna go here and look at what we're getting. Okay, so it's sudo cancellation and rerun. Let's see, does it have enough access? Yep, it does. Okay, so that's good. So what happened here now is, and I can do this one. Just gonna make my life easier in this terminal. There we go. Okay. So now we can see there's a VM being automatically created for that particular job. It's running now. And effectively it gives it a temporary one-time token to register a GitHub agent. So the VM starts with the size that's configured. Actually, I can show you that piece. So if you go look here, I've got a bunch of extra tags that are set. So in this case, it says self-hosted, 4 CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, 100 gigs of disk. I want it to be AMD 64, and I want a Debian 12 image. So that's effectively what it did. If we go look at the definition for that VM, okay, we can see here again MD64, Debian 12, 4 gigs, 4 gigs. It's got, and the rest is volatile keys perfectively, and the disk is 100 gigs as configured. So that's what this does. And if I go in there, effectively what it does is it runs Cloud Init to install everything it needs to run the GitHub runner, and then the GitHub runner starts running the actual test. In this case, I guess there was something else pending. Oh yeah, okay. All right, let's clean that up. It's because the repo was not functional for a little while, so there's a whole bunch of GitHub actions that are pending, and so those are gonna get picked up potentially before the one actually you want. So I need to go and cancel a whole bunch of them so they don't get scheduled, and we can retry the one we actually want, and it will start doing its thing. Okay. Let's see, what do we still have in the queue? Still have this guy and that guy. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, so canceling those two. Cancel, cancel. Okay. So there shouldn't be anything pending now on the repo. So good. This one should have noticed. I thought I still had that terminal open. Oh no, apparently not. Okay, now let me do those exports again. Okay. Remote. Okay. Cool. So it should, yeah, there's no more VM. It got automatically deleted, so that's all good. And now if we go look at our pull request, it's gonna be in a bad state, which is fine. We can just go here and then retry that one, and it should actually do what it's supposed to this time. Okay. We can actually keep track of what's going on. So yeah, it's unpacking that image. 100 gigs done. Then configuring it, there we go. And starting it. Okay. So again, if we check, it's starting up now. In a few seconds, can get a shell in there, hopefully. Okay, it's not running, which is simply because the Cloud Init execution does a reboot the first time around. That's what we're seeing here. Then agent is running, and in here we should see it actually go and run the Cloud Init piece, which will just pull the pull everything we need effectively from well, it's downloading the agent, the runner from GitHub, running that, and then that runs the rest from this point on. I'm just checking something. Yeah, okay, so we've got 100 gigs, we're good. Because I saw an error about grow part earlier, so I just wanted to make sure that the disk is the correct size, but it is. And I think if we go on GitHub now, we should see it running. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll just let that one go. And on here, I can go back and show you what things look like effectively if you just get stuff from the current repo. So once again, I'm just gonna run. Actually, I want a second terminal here. Okay, close this guy. Close this guy. All right, I'm just gonna go with a clean slate. So I've got my testing Incus OS VM as usual. That's gonna get destroyed. And so if you want to just test things, you can run make, which goes ahead and actually builds the image. So from what we saw on GitHub, it's gonna take about probably a couple of minutes, maybe less in my case, since I've got a bunch of stuff cached already. But that's building the base image layer through macOSI. Once that base image layer is built, it then builds up the two overlays. As a reminder, we've got one that's Incus itself, another one that's a debug layer with extra tools. And it then generates the actual disk image, so puts all of the partitioning scheme, all that stuff in place. And yeah, we end up with a functional image that can then be fed, in this case, to Incus to actually test it. We're getting pretty close to the point where we can actually test this stuff on bare metal. We basically just need a bit of provisioning logic, which is what I'd like to get added today, because currently we've got some targets on the in the make file to push the extensions, to do that kind of stuff. That needs to change. We'll want to have a daemon on startup that can handle that, effectively can handle consuming a bit of description for what we want the system to look like, and then go and apply that config and start downloading the extensions. So one piece that's currently missing for that, which I'm probably going to be doing pretty soon actually, is we've got a GitHub action right now to build, well, to do the end-to-end test. That's what I showed you. We also need another GitHub action that's run effectively on merge and on a schedule, so that we generate an actual image that can be published within, well, on the main IncusOS repo, so that when you do boot the image, we want our little daemon to go and check, hey, I just booted, is this thing up to date? No, okay, cool, let me pull the new image, reboot, and then, okay, now am I up to date? Yes, okay, good. Let's go and pull the system extensions and actually bootstrap Incus. So for that, there's a bit more plumbing that is needed on the GitHub side. My thought actually is I want to have probably a daily image build. That makes sense. But otherwise, I wanted to trigger probably on a tag, so that we can, whenever we do want to push an image to users, we can just you push a tag and that will generate a new image. The other thing that's going to be needed is to have a GitHub secret that effectively is the makeOSI certificate and key, because like at that point we can have the builders download that and have the key, have the image always signed with the same key, because otherwise the issue is we do a build, we get an image, people install it, we do another build, it's not signed by the same key, you can't update to it. So just kind of a bit of infrastructure needed, and this time on the GitHub side. Anyway, once we do get those artifacts in place, then it's time to actually implement the bootstrap logic with it's going to be a small piece of Go daemon that will handle that. We're effectively connecting back to GitHub, checking what the current version is, checking our current version, updating if needed. If we're on the right version, then go and pull the system extensions from that release and install those. Anyway, so I did do an image build, that worked fine. Now, if you wanted to kind of follow along, the next step here is to do make test. Make test effectively blows away my current VM and re-imports that as a, well, imports the current image as an Incus image, adds the TPM device, starts it up, and now we can see the new workflow where it will actually boot and shows custom secure boot keys successfully enrolled. So that's the new stuff, rebooting system. So at that point, our custom secure boot root of trust is now fully loaded. And now we're booting the OS fully secure boot enabled. And we'll be able to see that just in a tiny bit once this is actually booted. So already gonna get ready for that. Just waiting. Okay, there we go. So we're done, fully booted. And if we look now, secure boot is enabled. So that's good. That was one of the issues we had in the past. It's all resolved. And now we've got a system that's, can't really do anything. No debugging tools, no Incus, no nothing. So that's the next step, is to load the extensions. that just pushes the extensions and then loads them. Okay, and initializes Incus as well. So at that point, PS does work because we've got the debugging tools. Incus itself works fine, and we can, go ahead and start running containers, VMs, whatever we want on there. It's all working now. So let's do a VM as well, but that's behaving. I mean, there's another piece around that with like when we do the bootstrapping, storage config and like for Incus gonna also matter. So effectively, do we create enough like an extra partition for local storage that we put ZFS on, or do we just do plain directory like right now? Do we do LVM or what do we do? We probably want to have those images be somewhat customizable. Probably won't be publishing 50 different versions of it, but make it easy enough for someone to fork the repo and build their own. Like I'm quite likely to be adding ZFS to the image and then use that because it's kind of the best performance-wise and feature-wise. And then we can tweak the partitioning scheme to give us extremely little persistent storage with the OS, because we basically just need enough space to deal with updates and that kind of stuff. So we can probably do, I don't know, 10 gigs or something like that, and then give the rest to an empty partition that's then consumed by ZFS for instant storage. And because we're in charge of the whole bootstrapping story, we would automatically create like a local storage volume for images, backups, configure the pool and everything the right way. Anyways, we've got those two running just fine now. So it's a quick question around what distro it's based on. It's based on Debian testing. So that's what we use for the base. You can actually see it if you look here. It says it is Debian Trixie, which is the name for the current testing version of Debian. And then the image ID is IncusOS with the image version being this. So yeah, it's based on Debian, but it's effectively very, very trimmed down. Like for one thing, you don't have apt installed on there at all. I think dpkg is installed, but the package database is not. So it's extremely stripped down because it's completely read-only anyways. Like even if we wanted to, you can't write anything. It's completely image-based. So we do have Incus up and running here. That's great. Now, if we wanted to actually test the next piece, because that was mostly working last week, minus the signature pieces and that. But what's new is that now we can actually build a new image and actually push that and update from it. So that's somewhat new. I think I did a bunch of the work towards that last week, but didn't really get it through the finish line. Actually, had a bit of back and forth with Dan after the live stream to try and fix up a few of those issues, which we got all sorted. So now it's great. It's working perfectly fine. While this is going on, let me just go check what's going on the GitHub side of things. So for my pull request, yeah, it's running. So it's GitHub is actually kind of ahead of us because it's actually testing the image update right now. So it's at the stage where it applied the update and it's rebooting onto it. So just letting that complete, and it should then go green, and that pull request will be good to go, which is good. That's one of the items I wanted to kind of get off my to-do list, effectively having testing for new changes going into Incus OS. So we've got that now. And then the next piece is to actually add the GitHub actions to generate the artifacts we need, which is going to be a mostly stripped down version of this one. There won't be all of the testing stuff. It will just build the artifacts and then publish them. But yeah, the rest of the initialization bits, that should be the exact same. So just waiting for it to actually reboot, which takes a little while. That's fine. Let's see what's going on locally. Locally, I'm still finishing building that image. So whichever way we look at it, we're waiting effectively. But yeah, we're making pretty good progress on this guy, because like once we get the bootstrap story in a shape where someone can just dump a YAML file with that's the expected network config And those are either the TL, well, most likely initially the TLS keys, so the user keys that I want to see trusted. Then you can just deploy, like dump that on a machine, a NUC or whatever, have it go run its stuff, and once it's done, it will just print you what the IP address is. You can go Incus remote, add this thing on your client, and there you go, you're connected to your little Incus OS system. I think, it's probably another maybe a couple of days of work on my side to get to that basic stage, which will make it more useful for people to actually consume and play with. Then after that, there's a ton of other stuff that can be done on top of that, like adding oven, adding Ceph, adding more, or making it easier to access the UI, that kind of stuff can all kind of be done on top of it. Also building up the actual API for interacting with Incus OS, for checking updates, playing updates, all that kind of stuff. But we're getting there. All right. Not sure what this one is stuck on. Anyway, I'm just gonna do the next stage on locally. So I did build the image now. Next step is we can do make test update, which just pushes the update into it and then runs through. Here we go. So it's actually pushed the update and is now rebooting it, which is basically what GitHub Action is also doing, except it's stuck. So we're gonna have to go see why it's stuck. Also got to check whether our local one is also gonna get this stuck the same way. That's actually possible. Test Incus OS. Let's see. And there's a mention of like this might be a good candidate to integrate with verified boot in core boot. I'm not too sure what verified boot does, so possibly. Basically, but yeah, our stack is effectively combination of secure boot and TPM measured boot. So if you're on a platform that can do EFI secure boot, then it's easy enough. You boot out stuff, it's all fine. If you don't, then you can also just not do the EFI piece and effectively boot the UKI, so the kernel init, the command line image directly, saved like with whatever validation you can do, and that then provides the root of trust for the verity, which then validates everything else. So from that point on, we don't really need EFI secure boot anymore. Yeah, so there's something going on, which is probably the same thing we're running into on GitHub Actions. No, this one has a login prompt. Okay, so this one did boot. Yeah, okay. So this one actually did behave. I just attached to it too late, so that's fine. And if we go look, OS release, yeah, it's all good. It's updated. Okay, so that one worked perfectly fine locally. No idea what's going on with the one there. Still need to go poke at that. Now this one is updated. There's some issues still when you do that, where the sysx layer is not fully applied or doesn't apply quite right. I think you need to kind of do a daemon reload, at which point you can enable the Incus socket, at which point the rest works, I think. Yeah, there we go. So that's just a bit of an ordering issue. Again, it's not going to be a problem what we have our daemon running on the system, because the daemon itself will start up and can handle making sure that all of the pieces are properly lined up. It's also quite possible that I'm just missing something for pulling, effectively getting units out of sysx layer. Effectively, there might need to be some extra integration with systemd on that one. I need to look into it. All right, let's go check what's going on with the other one, because like it should have completed a long time ago, so it looks like it's stuck. I don't know why it's stuck. So let's see. VM is running, got enough disk. Okay, so the VM doesn't run the agent based on what I can see. Okay. Test Incus OS console log. What's going on? Okay. That's interesting. So it's asking for the TPM key, which it shouldn't be doing. So normally that happens if the only case where that normally happens is if the TPM state has changed for some reason, which it shouldn't have. In this case, we applied, like on my own machine, it worked perfectly fine. On this one, it doesn't. So I wonder what's going on. It's using Incus daily on both. And okay, so this is booting correctly now. Let's see, because that's gonna immediately trigger the end of the job here. Yeah. What did it just fall back on the previous version? 1901. What are we running before? 1856. No, okay, so it actually succeeded. It's just the first reboot tripped the TPM state somehow. I didn't see that one coming. Okay. That's a bit concerning. So I guess we'll have to see if that's an issue that occurs again. But anyway, for now, this pull request is technically fine. So let's merge that and then can look at actually taking some of those pieces to get us artifacts. So because we're gonna need that for that bootstrapping agent. So workflows, tests, we need GitHub workflows build. Okay. Now let me look at the docs again for that one because I want GitHub actions on. Like I want it to trigger ideally when a tag is pushed. I think it's kind of what I would like for now. Let's see, what are the events? There are a bunch of events we can trigger on. Let's see what they have for tags. Yeah, so if you want to get a action to trigger on new tags, sure, okay, so we can just do that. So that will trigger on new tags there. And then I want the job to be image building. Image build. What's actually the name here should be just build, and then it's image build. We take the same size, same tool, same everything. Just don't need to do any of the starting stuff here. Okay. What we need to do is actually capture a bunch of artifacts. So I need to upload artifacts here. And to make that work, we need to actually pick up the right file pattern. Actually, I'm kind of surprised by something here. Hold on. Okay, so there's no more PR open. Let me just make sure. It looked like I was still connected to that VM. Yeah, why isn't that one dead? What's going on? Oh, that's a new one. Okay, that's fine. It's just triggering on merge. Okay, that's not a problem. It's fine. All right. Next. So uploading of the artifacts. For that, I need to actually figure out what the artifacts are. So let's look at the output. So that's all the stuff we have. We're not going to have as many. We're just going to have, so we need to upload Incus raw and debug raw, which are not too large, so that's fine. Yeah, it's kind of weird ordering, but okay. So we need to upload those and then upload the image itself. And for the image, we're gonna need the raw, the EFI, and those three. Okay, let me just look how that's artifact upload stuff works again, because I don't ever remember that. But we're actively using that in Incus itself, so that's easy enough to track. Which one is it? Commits maybe? No, it's not. We do it in test. What do we do? Okay. So this one, okay, not that one, not a good example. This guy is a good example. Upload artifacts, and it's pushing on a specific name. Actually, do I? It's gonna need some more debugging, I think. Like the idea is that, yeah, we want to build the image and then push the artifacts. The problem is that GitHub just dumps them all into a zip file, which is not great. I need something that can actually be retrieved, because the other issue is GitHub action artifacts are not retrievable. You need to be logged in. So instead, what I actually need is to, since we have a tag, upload stuff into that tag. So that's what I actually need to do. I've never done that before. So let's see, GitHub actions, upload file to raise. Okay, so that's good. There's an action that does that. What does it do? Default to using the token, it's fine. The tag, it uses the tag automatically. It can override the thing. Pre-release, it could promote to release. Okay. Can it create the release? Because we've got the tag, but not the release yet, so it might not be happy. No, I thought it does let you override the release name and all that stuff, so maybe? Okay, and this one is with glubbing. Okay, well, anyway, we can try this guy a bit and see what happens. So, let's put that in, fix the indent. Off by 2 looks like. There we go. Fine, then we dump it into, I thought it was already a default, isn't it? Do actually need to specify that? Default to GitHub token, default to GitHub ref. Okay, so we don't actually need to mention that, so I can remove those. Then the files themselves, okay. And that's using a glob, but what do you do if you have more? Does it take a list? So it was like a file glob. Yeah, it doesn't really give a useful pattern. So either I can pass yeah, I don't know. Make OS side at output. I mean, we know we need Incus raw. I don't know if spaces work. That's the thing. So we need those at least, and then make OS side dot output, and then Incus OS underscore EFI, and user dash star, and the raw image itself we need to. I'm not sure I'm gonna select the raw without putting the ESP router. Interesting one. Anyway, for it's kind of annoying because ESP raw is 2 gigs large. Don't really want to have to pick it up. Anyway, we can try with this, which is not quite the selection of files we need, but might be able to like populate a variable or something else in there. So file glob is fine, override true, sure is fine. Let's try that. So let's add this guy. I'm just gonna switch directly to the actual target repo, so I don't need to go through a PR for that. Yeah, anyway. Initial build workflow, let's push that. So that shouldn't do anything on its own. If we go look here, okay, just updated, initial build workflow. Like currently it's just doing the normal end-to-end test. It didn't trigger anything else, which is normal. There's no tag. So now let's see what happens if I do a tag. Let's do that. Push the tag. Does that give us a new action? Yeah, so we've got here initial build workflow triggered on the tag build one. So this guy. Need to wait for a test runner to actually spin up. So if we go look at here, there should be a few now. Okay, so they're starting up. I'm not sure which is which, but effectively in the next few seconds it should start the actual job here. Then we'll get to see what happens. So it should probably take like 2-3 minutes tops to do this. While this is going on, let's maybe actually start working on the OSD a bit. So that's the daemon that will manage the operating system. So Incus OS daemon effectively. Just do the usual go mod init github lxc Incus OS Incus OSD. Yeah, for the main root of the go mod tree, that makes sense. And then cmd Incus OSD. So that's the actual where the actual code will go. Package main. Okay, so we just have something pointless, but it should build a binary. Yep. Okay. So just the most basic code tree right now, but effectively can work on putting a make file in place to build that, and then include the binary into the image as part of the build process. Okay. There's actually something that macOSI can handle for us, where like as part of one of the macOSI build scripts, it can go and pull Golang and actually build the binary and include it into the target image. Okay, so this one is building its image now. It's been running for minutes, so it should take another couple minutes tops to be done. While this is running, I just want to see what's going on with the other test runs. So I can keep this one at the bottom and just go here and actions. Okay, so we can see we've got 3 running. It's good. The oldest one is from back when I merged things, which was 4 minutes ago. So it's still building the initial image. Okay. I want to see if it's gonna hit the exact same problem, basically. I don't understand why it didn't correctly update and was functional, because it was earlier. It went all green, so I don't know why this particular boot, the TPM state didn't line up. So I'd like to see if we have a recurring problem now, or if it was just like a fluke or what. So we'll see what happens with that guy. Anyway, that's the other one that's building actual artifact. I could probably just have used that GitHub action with some example files and not actually build a full image for that. I'm guessing it's gonna fail for some reason or another. I might just do that for the subsequent run, because that's gonna take it's gonna be a bit slow otherwise. But anyway, we're gonna be wrapping up that stream actually pretty soon, because I've got something else afterwards. But I want to see what that looks like. So effectively what I'll do off screen after is work on getting this stuff lined up so that whenever I push a tag, we get a GitHub release out of it with the artifacts attached to it. Because once that's the case, it's going to be very easy for the OS daemon to actually connect and pull that data. So that will be the next step there. Then on the macOS side of things, the next stage is to make that extremely stupid binary I just created now to actually act like a daemon, so just start and effectively wait there and never exit. So I can then integrate that with macOS, because I need to make sure that on system startup, this daemon is started. Well, that it gets built during the macOS build and then gets started at the end of boot. Once that's true, then we can actually go and add a bunch of logic to that daemon to generate the network config. So effectively removing the hard-coded network config we've got right now in the image, moving that logic over to the agent, to the daemon. Resource. Okay, so yeah, so there's an access issue. Resource not accessible by integration. Release, create release. Okay. So I think it's simply because I've got, I should have seen that coming actually. Where is it? Yeah. So we've got permissions, which severely restricts what it can do. So I think that's the issue. Let me see if there's a good documentation for what should be allowed on this guy. What's the name again? Upload release actions. Okay. Typically, those kind of things do come with the permission requirements. Let's see, permissions. Yeah, okay, it needs contents right. So, which makes sense. Let's just fix that. Okay, so this is pushing that one. Okay, so that failed. A new retry is gonna happen now. We'll see. It seems like it didn't complain about the files that the patterns I'm passing or any of that. It might still fail later, but it seems to be pretty happy to that point and does show that it wants to run for this tag. So that's good. Obviously I need to fix the tag now. Not something you usually want to do in prod, back in an actual stable environment, because I'm deleting a tag here, but yeah, in this case we're fine since this is still early days. Okay, tags is deleted, and then we're gonna push the tag again, which should trigger that job again. And the reason I'm doing it that way instead of in my own repo is simply because the self-hosted runners, they only are available on some specific repos, so I can't easily test that myself. I need them to actually be on a repo that supports it. Anyway, a new test run is scheduled here. We can see it. So that should then go through that logic. And I wanted, just before wrapping up, I wanted to see this guy. So it's building its update. And I want to see if it can actually apply it this time around. So we should be pretty close to that point. And just, yeah, want to see if what we saw earlier was just a fluke or if I've got a bigger issue I need to deal with. Okay, I think we're basically done with image building. Yep, it's playing the update. There we go. So we're on 1925 right now. The new image is 1931. Okay, so image is being pushed and system's rebooting. Okay, so that was wrong for a different reason. Oh, hold on, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see what actually happened here. It rebooted faster than I expected. It's kind of the issue. Okay, so prior we were on 1925. Candidate was 1931. Okay, applied all the things. Install update. Okay. And okay, so that's the new run. So yeah, then it rebooted and current 1931. Okay, so that's actually fine. It shows the logic worked as expected. So that's pretty exciting. And we're gonna be leaving it at that, I think. I'll sort out the what's going on with the actual build and upload kind of off camera and do an update. Probably not next week. Next week is gonna be an Incus release week, but I'll do a live stream the week after, kind of catching everyone up on where we're at with Incus OS. Hopefully, quite a bit of stuff will have happened. And I know Jared is not watching this live, but he's probably gonna watch the video afterwards and keeps asking about the cat. So since the cat's decided to show up, I figured I would just go in and make sure that that he appears in this one. There you go. Just woke up from his nap. And yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm gonna do some of that work kind of over the next week or so. And in the next live stream, we'll hopefully have the skeleton for the OS daemon in place and kind of go through more of what that does, what it looks like, what's the actual Bootstrap data to load and the API and all of those kind of aspects around the OS daemon. Thanks a lot for watching. I know I didn't necessarily do as much new work as maybe happened like last week. But still good to see things getting now integrated on the GitHub side so that we have automatic tests of the whole story. We've got image builds happening. We're gonna have artifacts and releases starting to show up that we can then consume and apply updates. Also need to get the secure boot story in place so that all of those get the same, come from the same certificate, and it's actually possible to have systems install with this and then roll updates. Anyway, if you've got any questions about any of this work, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. And I'll see you in the next video, which again should be an Incus release on Thursday, Friday next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.